Hello, this is iPost Swords, and today we're going to be looking at this, the 1889 German Trooper's Sword. The 1889 German Cavalry Troopers Sword is a straight-bladed, single-edged sword with a sabre-like hilt and a single wide, shallow fuller. It is very similar in form factor to the infantry variant we looked at in an earlier video, but it has quite a few unique features that are worth looking at. Let me bring it closer to the camera so we can examine those features. The 1889 has a distinct spur here on the bakelite grip, which is indicative of the way it was supposed to be held. This spur, when held in sabre grip, assists with point control, making it very easy to maneuver this sword during combat. The grip also prevents you from holding it in a hammer grip, as this inner bar interferes with the thumb when holding it in a hammer grip. This grip is made of German silver and features a folding guard with spring retention. It also has a sword knot hole here on the knucklebur. There are various different symbols and emblems that were available to put on these swords. This one is a German eagle. However, Württemberg, Saxony and other regions of Germany had their own symbols which could have been emblazoned upon these swords. The blade has a single edge and a single wide, shallow fuller. The tip is spear-pointed to assist in thrusting. You can see that it's been nickel-coated and then etched, and also blued, as on this panel here. This blued panel shows prancing hussars, for reasons that will become clear momentarily. This sword comes from the Leib Garde Husaren, or Leib Garde Husaren. This regiment was started in the mid-18th century, and was originally a Royal Household Guards regiment. By the time this sword was created, it was just one of the many regiments of light cavalry in the Kaiser's army. This example is what is known as an extra Degen, to differentiate it from a regulation or issued Degen. It was custom made for the person who owned it. This sword is what's known as a going out or dress sword. However, unlike the dress sword we looked at for the infantry officers, this is still a full-size sword with a stiff, full-size blade, and thus would be completely usable if the trooper chose to use it in battle. However, being heavily decorated, this would be unlikely. While this sword is a dress sword and it is full-sized, they still weren't very likely to be used in general. Even the field-grade swords of the 1889 Cavalry Degen would not have seen much field use, as by the time, light infantry was using lances primarily and swords simply as a sidearm. These lances replace the utility of a sword, and thus it's unlikely to find one of these which has been used in combat. However, this one does show signs of combat on its edge, which is very slightly burred from where it has impacted other swords. This may have happened later, however the patination appears to be very old. In order to date this sword, we must look at its scabbard rather than the sword itself, much like when we looked at its infantry cousin. This scabbard has two bands for two rings and is nickel-coated. This means it was prior to 1906, when they moved to a single ring construction, and in 1910 they moved to a black painted construction. That makes this a rather early example of the type. This is a trooper's sword, not an officer's sword. It could have been used by either your standard trooper, a sergeant, or another non-commissioned officer. However, no officers ever used this pattern of sword. In summary, the 1889 Cavalry Degen is a straight single-edged sword with a sabre hilt that was used for thrusting from horseback. It was used by light cavalry regiments from 1889 onwards, and this example dates from between then and 1906, when the scabbard moved to have a one-ring construction. This has been iPost Swords, and this is part 2 of a 4-part series on German swords from 1889 and 1890. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Stay sharp.